Hello and welcome to the G3 Pulse podcast. Joining me today to discuss an increasingly competitive user acquisition services market is Allan Petrilli, the VP of Sales and Growth at marketing tech and analytics service company Intelitics. Allan, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Will.
You've been in the iGaming industry since 2011, so you'll know much better than anybody really about whether SEO tactics and kind of grey and black hat paid media solutions, are they no longer the prevalent way of driving top line performance, and what's changed in your time in the industry?
So obviously when I joined in 2011, SEO was the most prevalent, and while it still is at the time, it really dominated basically every single affiliate program in the space. I'd say now if you look at it, both SEO and in certain areas, gray or black hat paid media is still quite prevalent. Especially on the SEO side, there's obviously been huge consolidation across some of the bigger companies in the space, whether that's Catena Media, Better Collective, etc. But they're both getting increasingly harder, at least in my opinion. So from an SEO perspective, the days of launching a website, having it rank, and being able to make significant revenue quickly are done. You know what I mean? And you're also seeing quite a lot of consolidation on that front with, a handful of companies controlling most of the scale from an SEO perspective internationally. When it comes to gray and black hat, those are obviously still prevalent, especially in search, but definitely more and more difficult and few and far between finding new publishers that are really scaling, especially on the Facebook side of things, just because it's the platforms are starting to crack down and it's becoming a lot more difficult to sustain growth. So definitely operators are needing to become more creative. But what's helping them a little bit is regulation across a lot of different geos. And obviously, a lot of people might disagree with me when it comes to regulation helping scale, but it does allow operators to buy in places that they wouldn't have had opportunities to buy in the past. And that's something that's very interesting and something that we're keeping a close eye on. We have a sister company called Acquire.bet where we do paid media services. We run a large affiliate network. So obviously just trying to stay ahead of the curve on that company and making sure that we understand in which geos we're able to scale from a white hat perspective.
Could you just tell me a bit more about Acquire.bet? I don't know too much about it myself.
Long history. It's been in the space in a few different forms since 2001. The company was actually founded originally as CasinoAffiliatePrograms.com, which was a discovery portal for affiliates and affiliate programs to kind of meet each other. That company actually co-founded IGB many years ago, exited that business in 2011. And since then, CasinoAffiliatePrograms.com has been one of the largest standalone affiliate/publisher networks globally in the industry, which is housed under Acquire.bet. We also do paid media services for brands buying directly on tier one ad platforms. And then we run a couple owned and operated affiliate properties in the US market. So I'd say that company from a network perspective is quite global, but from a services perspective is focused probably 75% in the US and then 25% internationally.
Okay, interesting. So would you agree with the premise, having dug into this space and learned a bit more about it, would you agree with the premise that iGaming marketing is lagging behind many other industries in kind of innovative marketing activities, or is that unfair?
I'd say it's fair. I would say there are definitely reasons for it, right? There's a lot of conversation publicly within this industry when you look at conference circuits and things like that, talking about lack of innovation without talking about the fact that there's obviously limited places where brands can advertise, and there's more scrutiny when it comes to brands advertising above the line or out of home. When you look at changes coming to EPL not being able to promote on shirts, crackdowns on what brands are able to do on TV in certain geolocations. So at the end of the day, I do think there's a lot of issues or regulation that's holding back the industry from what they can do from an innovative marketing perspective. You just have to look at, any unregulated or not fully regulated geo. You're not able to buy white hat on Facebook or Google or other places. So you have to start getting creative in terms of what you do. So yeah, we're definitely lagging behind. I wouldn't say it's solely because of a lack of, smart minds in the industry. You would only have to look at like what Paddy Power has done over the last 20 years in terms of some of their really cool marketing, and what some of the US brands have done on some of the spots in the US. But yeah, it's definitely, look, regulation is making it difficult. Speed, there's a lot of platforms that interact within an iGaming environment that cause brands to be slow when it comes to being able to A/B test creative or launch new channels or new paths or things like that. So I think there's a lot of things that are holding us back as an industry. I think we're seeing the need to be able to kind of move forward and be a little bit more pragmatic when it comes to how we put together marketing strategy. And there's obviously just becoming more and more places where iGaming and sports betting is becoming allowed in the sense of being able to buy media in certain locations. And I think that's going to continue to grow and going to be important for us to be able to get more innovative as a industry.
And the one thing that kind of the gaming industry and iGaming doesn't lack is data. And user acquisition is increasingly reliant on data analytics. Would you say that enough is being done by organizations in the industry to put this wealth of data at their disposal to work for them?
So we definitely don't lack data. I think what we lack as an industry is centralizing that data and making it actionable, right? I think from a platform perspective, as an operator, you literally know what every single one of your players is doing at a hand level, whether it's what they're doing playing blackjack, the individual sports that they're betting on, player trends, etc. All that data is available, but it's not being centralized in a way that makes it useful when making decisions, especially on the user acquisition side. Obviously, I'm biased from what we're building in Intelitics, which is a real-time tracking, reporting, and BI platform. And we help operators centralize that data and power their decision-making with insightful, incredibly granular level data. We've definitely seen over the last kind of 10 to 15 years that every single channel from a reporting perspective has been siloed. So you have brands have their affiliate program, then they're tracking their paid media channels individually within the platforms that they're buying. And if you look at anyone at kind of like a C position or up, it's very hard for them, in real time to be able to dive in and get an understanding of what's going on today, yesterday, from a spend to profit perspective. So I do think we're sitting on a gold mine of data. I do think there's companies like us and a few others who are helping brands centralize it and make it actionable. But at the end of the day, it comes back to kind of my answer on the last question. We sit in an industry that's built on a lot of third-party technology, siloed data, and it takes a lot of time for brands to kind of put this all together and be able to make decisions on it. And I think what we need to get to from an industry perspective when it comes to user acquisition is get away from putting analysis together, which takes weeks or months, and then making decisions on traffic that was bought months ago on data that's expired, right? And I think that's incredibly important that we get data together quickly and that it allows brands to make decisions a lot faster, because I think that's what's held back tons of campaigns from being profitable or from brands overspending in areas that they shouldn't.
What exactly do you mean by centralization?
So, for example, if you are a head of user acquisition, you will have an affiliate program which has your data from that affiliate program within it. You will be buying across tens, if not 20 other platforms that all have siloed data from a conversion standpoint within those. And then you'll also have generally, depending on the size of the operator, if you're a bigger operator, you'll have a BI team that's working really hard to try to centralize all this data in some sort of like internal data lakes and reporting so that you as a team can be able to make decisions on the fly. But because data is so siloed, that's very difficult. And not a lot of operators actually have the manpower internally to be able to build something that helps them in real time on the fly. So that's what we try to do as a company in Intelitics, is take all of your channels and centralize the reporting in one, so that you are able to log in no matter who you are in an organization. You can be a media buyer, you can be an affiliate manager, you can be the CEO. You're all working off one location where all the data is organized and that you're able to make decisions on it. I think that's where we need to get as an industry. If not, what we're seeing is things take a lot of time. And in media buying right now, or in general in user acquisition, time is not anyone's friend. The longer you take to make changes, optimizations, or missing out on scale on placements that are really good, you're just hurting yourself as a brand.
And with media buy-in, so to speak, what are the differences between paid media, owned media, and earned media? And which combination of those channels would you say is best to create a dynamic campaign that will ultimately convert users?
So, I mean, at a high level, all of those are very important, and you need to marry them together in a strategy that hits on all three. If you're looking at kind of definitions and how they differ, paid media is what you're buying. So brands will go on Facebook or on Google and they'll buy ad placements or keywords on those individual properties.
Okay.
Owned media is going to be your website, your blog, your social media accounts. I think there's sometimes people don't understand the differentiation between owned media on social, which is your own uh, Instagram account, Facebook account, etc., versus what you're buying from a paid perspective. And even when you speak to brands who have large owned media following on their own social accounts, there's a misconception that when you post that all your audience is seeing that. And that's something that we champion, especially in our agency business, that even if you have a large following and you have a very good internal social media team that posts really good content, very engaging, in order for you to get full reach, you do need to subsidize some of this with paid, and the platforms will increase your reach. And that's incredibly important. And when it comes to earned media, it's really anything that you're being able to generate organically across different platforms, third-party partnerships, etc., where you have other people vouching for your product. I think within iGaming, this is a little bit of a more um, difficult segment because there's a crossroads between what is earned and then these huge affiliate programs where you're essentially paying for any of these individual organic style posts. But when you look at kind of what's really important from a mix for a brand, I really think you need to have synergy across your own media and what you're buying from a paid perspective, and that can be also all include affiliates as part of that. At the end of the day, you need to make sure that the way that you are presenting your brand across all your channels has synergy and has fluidity. And I think one thing that a lot of the smaller brands in the industry maybe don't realize is that brand is incredibly important. There's a reason why Bet365 and I can name 10 other huge brands that continue to have huge brand loyalty is the amount of both money they've spent on branding over the years, but also the depth of their product offering and how good their actual product that they're building is. So, one thing we haven't really touched on, and I don't want to, take this conversation fully onto product, but all of what we're speaking about is incredibly important, provided that you're building a really good user experience and product. And that just can't be ignored. You can't come to market with a product that is not, high quality and expect your incredible ability to be able to acquire users to be able to get you to the next level. Those need to be married together, and you constantly need to be focusing on product improvements.
And how can organizations gain kind of a true understanding, an intimate understanding of the value that each particular media channel or traffic source is worth? Because it seems like from what you're saying, all three of those media types are important, but how do you know which one is more important? How do you know which is, as you said, fluidity, and which is best for your particular channel?
I think there's a big push and pull between getting to market quickly. And when I say market, is getting campaigns up and running as fast as possible once your brand is live or when you launch a new product, versus making sure that you're set up in a way to be effective. And even if that takes a little bit longer, in my opinion, it's definitely worth it. I think from a tracking perspective, and again, a little bit biased here, given that we run a large tracking company, is having a tool in place to be able to let you track and optimize campaigns in real time at scale. If you don't have that, then trying to be successful, especially from a paid perspective, is going to be very difficult. So taking the proper time up front to put proper tracking in place, making sure your MarTech stack is solid, and understand what your KPIs are internally so that you can measure against them is where I would start. And then from there, making sure that from an optimization standpoint, you're collecting metadata, you're collecting as much first party data as you can, and that you're ensuring that on every campaign you have sub IDs set up and different actionable insights across what you're driving, so that you're able to get those insights and then make decisions on it. It's not just good enough to say, hey, let's just launch a campaign without having all this in place and hope that it works. That's maybe worked in the past, but that just doesn't work anymore. And especially as us as an industry grows up, we are not just competing against other iGaming brands. At the end of the day, our industry is an entertainment product, right? So you're competing against dollars spent in a bunch of different areas, whether it's going to sporting events, other entertainment, etc. So you need to start thinking like these other companies when it comes to user acquisition and making every dollar go as far as you possibly can for yourself. And if you're not set up from a data perspective, then it's literally impossible for you to do that.
And in your time in the industry, it's kind of going back to the first question, but on a slightly different topic. How significant have kind of the tracking technology advances been? So whether it's pixel or just tracking advances been in helping to kind of establish more of a comprehensive view of the user interactions with marketing campaigns and websites and so forth?
I think the digital marketing industry as a whole has, I mean, grown light speed over the last 10 years. I think with us within iGaming, we've adapted to that very slowly. And this is not to throw shade on some of our competing brands within the space. We've grown significant and good businesses. But at the end of the day, right now, to be able to run successful user acquisition, if you're not getting data in real time, if you don't have flexible server pixel tracking for your partners, if you can't add sub IDs onto links, if you don't have insight driven reporting within your platform that doesn't just show you, hey, this campaign as a whole is good, but it actually shows you down to an individual player level, and beneath that, their geolocation, their device type, operating system, etc., give you insight into actually what is converting and then what's driving LTV. It's going to be very difficult for you to be able to make your campaigns as profitable as possible. And I just think we're finally at a stage where there's a lot of smart people in the industry from a paid media perspective pushing this. And I think we kind of hit it on the head in the first question. As some of your bigger affiliates go away from being SEO sites and driving more paid media, this kind of setup is pivotal for them to be successful. And if you just kind of zoom out and you look at the US market as an example, tracking in the US market now is light years even behind what we see in Europe. There's still a lot of brands reporting with spreadsheets, no dynamic variables, etc. And they've been very limited in the types of affiliates and the types of partners that want to drive traffic in that space because of their inability to be able to track like they track in other industries, whether it's social gaming, consumer finance, e-com, etc. So they've kind of thrown a little bit of shade at the iGaming and sports betting industry by not getting involved in it because they don't have the access to data they need to drive profits on their end. So I think we're getting there. I think there's a need for us to grow up from a technology standpoint, and I think there's buy-in across most of the industry now. Now it's just getting things on technical roadmaps and making sure that they can deliver product in time.
I'm trying to get myself into a headspace where I could have a conversation with you and understand what you're talking about. I ended up going down the route of looking at Urchin tracking modules. Could you just tell me about what role they've played in improving the ability to run successful campaigns? I find them quite a fascinating little innovation.
Yeah, so if you're looking at UTM parameters, at the end of the day, just to kind of make it incredibly simple, before we had UTM parameters on links and things like that, you would execute a link on either an affiliate site or if you were running any paid media, and you would run traffic to that link and you would see, okay, on link one, we got X amount of conversions, there was this many deposits, and there's this much net revenue. With the ability to add UTM parameters onto any of your links, and I think we've spoken about this before, I refer to them as sub IDs on the links that we have within our platform. It now allows you as a media buyer or even as an affiliate to be able to get a lot more granular in how you identify where you're getting conversions. So, like, simplest example I can give, if you're buying Google search traffic, you can utilize one of the UTMs to pass through a keyword. So now instead of saying, hey, the whole campaign has 10 FTDs, for example, you can say keyword 1 has 2, keyword 3 has 4, and keyword 3 has 6. Yeah. And from there, you can dive into, hey, which ones are profitable, which are not, which ones have better conversions. And this can be done across any of Meta's platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. Even from an affiliate perspective, traditionally, they'd have one link across 5 or 6 different locations on their site. Now you can identify where that link is actually placed. Is it placed on their homepage? Is it placed within a review page? Is it placed in a newsletter? So you can start getting an idea where you're actually getting conversions and quality from, so that brands can adjust campaigns based on that. So it allows you to increase the speed of which you can deliver links to your partners. So instead of traditionally creating 20 different links for different placements, you can have one. You can utilize those UTMs to be able to differentiate traffic.
And a few times during this podcast, you've mentioned, okay, I don't want to go too much into product, or you've said, a tool, but I won't go into the product. Give me the elevator pitch in terms of what the technology and solutions Intelitics has for iGaming brands that are looking to run, measure, evaluate, and ultimately optimize their campaigns.
Yeah, so we have a tracking analytics and BI platform that we've built actually originally for us to be able to run our affiliate network. So I think when we spoke about and we went into a little bit of the history of Acquire.bet, we originally built our platform for internal use. And as we continued to use it and we came across frustrations with driving scale, whether it was brands didn't have real time tracking or brands didn't have the ability to place sub IDs or pixels or things like that, we went to market 2 years ago with our own tracking technology, which solves all of these problems. So, firstly, it centralizes user acquisition data in one platform. So we allow brands to track their affiliate program and any of their paid media channels and even offline, which is not something that really kind of exists across most of the industry. We're a fully cookieless tracking platform, which is important as cookies deprecate across many different platforms over the last year and into next year. And then kind of third, we provide actionable insights across all the channels that you're driving traffic in. So we're not simply a reporting engine. We then deep dive into that data and we recommend where you should be increasing traffic, where you should be cutting or decreasing traffic. And kind of as we move forward here, we're building predictive LTV technology and KPI led reporting directly in the platform so that the days of having to export data and manipulate it internally to make decisions, which delays kind of your action time once you start a campaign, we're going to build that all in real time so that brands have that at their fingers so they can move a lot faster. We obviously believe in it. We're users of the platform at massive scale. And the entire team comes from being in this industry for 10 to 20 years of driving traffic. So obviously, we keep a close eye on trends and we make sure that our platform adapts.
Well, it's really fascinating, and it's as Matt have portrayed in a couple of the questions I've asked. I kind of had to do a fair bit of research just to understand some of the technologies and what have you. But it is a really fascinating space, and hopefully we get to chat again. But for now, Alan, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Well. I appreciate you having me.